Greetings, vampires and black swans and witches. My name is Father Sebastian, Master Fangsmith of the Sabretooth Clan, impresario of the Endless Night Vampire Ball, founder and headmaster of the University Magicus, and author of the books Black Veils, Mysteries of Paris, and Strig of Eye. Today, I want to welcome you to my new podcast, The Father Sebastian Experience. And what is great about this podcast is I go around and I interview people in my life that have contributed to my vampire adventures. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to a very special guest who is a longtime friend of mine. I met her in New Orleans. Her name is Tsarina Hellfire of the New Orleans Vampire Theater. Rock and roll.
Hello, everyone. Greetings. Hello, Father Sebastian.
Wow, you sound and look amazing as usual.
Why, thank you. I appreciate that.
How's it going down by the river in New Orleans?
We are busy. It's summertime, but you would never know it. I am coming to you live from the Always Lounge and Theater in the Twilight Room. And actually, there's going to be a show going on in a few minutes. So we're busy. We're staying productive, and we're super, super excited for the season to start.
Great. So can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
My name is Tsarina Hellfire. I am a producer, burlesque dancer, artist, musician, costumier, and all-around Jill of all trades, to be quite honest. I've been producing it since the late 90s. I think that's when we first met, but we probably don't remember too well what we were doing. No. We were having too much fun. But
my best friends are the ones that I don't remember where I met.
Exactly. We were having too much fun. But yet here we are 20-something years later. So I've just been part of the scene for a long time. I had Pravda, which was a beautiful absinthe bar on Lower Decatur in 2007. I know, I miss it so much. And now I do Le Vampyre Cabaret. I do Clowntown. I have a 1920s band called the Slick Skillet Serenaders. And I do various historical type burlesque throughout the city, which I love to specialize in Storyville and the 1920s.
Can you tell us a little bit about Storyville in the 1920s in New Orleans?
Storyville was created, so let me back up further. There was the red light district, and there was it was Basin Street, was right outside of the quarter, and we legalized sex work, prostitution, and we had some of the best in the world. We had rows of mansions, Josie Arlington, Lulu White, and it was something people around the world would come to conferences and, of course, go to the houses of pleasure. But also in that was created modern music as we know it, which was jazz. And it started roughly around the turn of the century, 1900s, and lasted until about 1910 with the onslaught of World War I. And it was wild. The ladies of the city emulated the courtesans in everything from fashion to mannerisms. It was a huge thing, and really generated and created a whole legacy for the city during that time.
A little bit of Veronica Franco action going on in there?
You could say, yes.
For those of you who don't know, Veronica Franco was in the subject of the movie of the Courtesans of Venice. And the Courtesans of Venice were the most highly educated women in the world at the time, and they had college degrees, and they were prostitutes, and they would go to war with the generals.
They really did. I was obsessed with courtesans. I was obsessed with madams because they were really the only women that had rights. They could actually own property. They had to do some, kind of liaisons with the officials of the city, but they basically did whatever they wanted to do.
So it was a sense of freedom.
It was.
And Storyville is the subject of a new interpretation of Interview with the Vampire.
I am so excited to see their interpretation.
It looks pretty good, actually. I've seen some of the screenshots of the casinos and the bordellos and the houses of pleasure,
Ooh,
and I'm not too sure how they're going to work Louis in from being a slave owner and a plantation owner to being a pimp in Storyville, but I'm sure the glamour and glitz of Storyville will make up for it.
I very curious to see how they negotiate all of that as well, because it was so opulent. I mean, we were still right on the cusp of the Pella Epoch. So it was still absinthe fountains. It was still like Lulu White had so many diamonds that one of her lovers shot her and it just bounced right off. And that was just a casual Tuesday. So these madams, yeah, they rolled out everything to please the gentlemen and ladies, because it wasn't just men that had all the money back in the talkies were starting to come out. So during the letter, towards the end of Storyville, so they would have special ladies riding in on trains that went to the pleasure houses as well.
Like
So the
special guests.
special guest, yes.
One thing that I used to be an editor for a website and a magazine in New York that was working with the domination houses,
Hmm.
and I would design the mistresses' websites and stuff like that. And this was from '97 to 2002. And I'm not going to say the website because I don't want to get there, but it was really interesting because it reminded me a lot of Storyville, the way that the blue books
Yeah,
um,
yes.
that would exist. And I actually asked my dear friend Rose Sinister to find me a vintage copy of a blue book, but
Ooh.
she said that the paper wasn't very good back then. So there's reproductions, and she's going to look into it for me. So I want to I want to be peering through a blue book at the New Orleans Vampire Ball. So I'm really excited for that.
I'm super excited for it as well. I'm hope she finds you one. They are definitely hard to find. Even the good reproductions are not exactly easy to find too.
Well, what my a good friend of mine went to the auction for the Penny Dreadful prop auction for the
Hmm.
TV show Penny Dreadful, and she got me two Penny Dreadfuls as a gift.
Oh,
And I'm like, wow. And I have them in my safety deposit box because they're not vintage, but they're props from the show. I wanted the Terror Attack, but
yes.
it didn't work out. But what's
Oh,
what's also interesting is that the Mayfair Witches are being filmed right now. The
I
Witching Hour.
I'm so excited about that too. It's like
Yeah.
everything being revived all over again. I'm so excited to see both of these.
Well, I'm doing an interview with someone from the cast and stuff like that. Eventually, as we get closer to the show's release. But
Hmm.
by the time the New Orleans Vampire Ball happens, Interview with the Vampire will have 4 episodes out, and the Mayfair Witches will be starting right afterwards. That's
Oh,
what I
how,
hear from my intrepid journalistic sources.
oh,
But
well,
let's see what happens with the future of Storyville and New Orleans
I'm
because
crossing fingers.
um so you have a vampire cabaret,
I
a,
do.
a vampire theater. Tell us about that and some of the most memorable acts that you have.
Oh my goodness. So I obsessed with what we do in the shadows and Interview with a Vampire, and just basically I wanted to create something silly but serious and sexy with cabaret and little splashes of that in there. And me and my co-producer Stanley Roy, we have worked together forever, and we decided just to kind of hire some of the best talent we have in the city, but with a spooky angle. And they're known throughout the land for their acts in regards to, vampire and witchy. And of course, they bring in a good crowd. And then Stanley and I started writing, and we premiered it about a year and a half ago upstairs here at the Always. And it just kind of everyone was insane about it. So, and we were just having fun. We just wanted to keep things going and alive here in the city because it was, kind of not too fun a couple of years ago. And
Yeah.
yes. So now we're down here in the actual theater, and it's cabaret. Like I'm the madam, the old madam vampire queen. I'm kind of bored and tired, but Stanley and I do a lot of interaction. He is my man servant vampire. We don't know. We keep it a mystery. But he's my accompanist in all things. And then we have the baby brat of burlesque, which is Miss Angie Z. We have Goga McGregor, who is sometimes the human, sometimes not. And then we have Ariana Amor, who is our very sad, bored Florentine from the 1400s, who has the voice of an angel. And so we interact with the audience, and we do so many fun things with these characters, and it's all fun. And we do it every once a month here. And the next time it is June 29th. And when October hits, we have two performances, the 15th and Halloween, the 31st.
You know, as the impresario of the Endless Night Vampire Ball and a passionate person of theater, we would like to formally invite the Vampire Cabaret of New Orleans at some point to do a show at the House of Blues with us. I think that would be amazing, and you gracing our stage with your own project, not just the ones that I script you in, would be really, really cool. And I think that might be a good thing to do. We just got to find a place for it over the weekend. But it's an aim of mine to have a vampire theater.
Well, I would be honored, and it would be a privilege. So, and of course, our theme for that month would be Storyville.
Oh.
Oh. So yes.
One thing that you and I are very adamant about is the word queer.
Yes, we are.
Okay. I don't like the alphabet soup description as a person who's queer myself. I came out about 6 months ago, fully publicly. What I find interesting is that the queer represents that minority of people who have different from the norm sexual behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And that I want to ask your opinion. Why do you like to use the word?
I mean, honestly, it's just something I've kind of, since I'm an older queer, it's always something I feel more comfortable with, because for me it embraces not only like bisexuality, pansexual, lesbianism, and also for me, like I do kink. So it embodies all of that for me. It's like a nice way of saying all the things that I am, rather than like going down the specific labels. And also it's a fluid term. So, we all don't just,
Yeah.
we change and grow. That's the whole point, I feel, in this body. I might go back to being a lesbian. I might go back to being bisexual, or goddess forbid, like, monogamous and straight, but those things change. I know, but also
I did that recently, and it's I'm going to tell you, it's hard, but it's not bad with the right person.
and we grow and change, and we're fluid. So I feel like that word queer encompasses all of that. And that's why I like to use it. It's just old school. It's a soft spot for me.
So your vampire theater, your Cabaret Vampyre.
Yes.
Can you tell me how many incarnations of the show you've had? Like how many versions?
Ooh. So lately, because of the excitement of Halloween, we're changing it a bit. We had Akashka appear last time as well, to kind of herald in this new incarnation that's coming next month. We kind of stuck to the same format. It's always myself and Stanley hosting, but I'm feeling a little festive of late, and I kind of want to change things up for this new upcoming versions next month and the month after. So I don't know. I might do something different other than sing and just lay on the couch. Stanley's always a good human, man, vampire servant, but we've talked about changing it up a bit, and I want to spoil the surprise, but I can't. So, hi. So, you'll have to just wait and see.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. So as impresario of the Endless Night Vampire Ball, I'm looking forward to having you guys at the Endless Night at some point. We just signed our contract with the House of Blues for 5 more years.
Oh, it's so
So we're uh, barring a natural disaster, we're there. And you remember, what was interesting is that when you became a part of our cast in the last couple of years, you've come to LA and you've come to Tampa, and each event's a different event. Tell us about your experience with Endless Night.
it's one of the events that I really look forward to every year. It's beautiful, it's opulent, it's decadent. I feel like everyone waits until that moment, that weekend, to bring out their finery. It's pure theater at its finest for me. I've always looked forward to Halloween, and I'm just going to be bold and say Halloween became really big starting in the late 90s, 2000s, when Endless Night started having these yearly events. We went from like a local Halloween to people coming from the States and around the world to our city again. And people come and they are excited.
Mhm.
They bring business, they bring all of these different just ideas and fantasies, and it's really good for our city. And for me, I love seeing the interaction. I love seeing people's joy, and we as performers, we get to really create some new art and do new things during that time of year. So it's, for me, it's the start of our season, and I've always enjoyed, like, besides of course making killer money, but like creating new costumes and new acts. It's kind of invigorizing for me and the town, and it always has been.
One of the things that I've watched and witnessed is New Orleans going from a voodoo oil oyster seed bearing town on the Gulf of Mexico and the head of the Mississippi. I mean, all that culture that just goes right by New Orleans and through New Orleans and up the river and by the river and the Garden District and everything like that. For the last 26 years, I've been going to New Orleans. The thing is the queen of, Anne Rice was the queen of the vampires while she was alive. And I think it's time we saint her
I do too. I really do.
because I,
Yes.
I think she when I came to New Orleans that year in 1995 for the Memnock Ball, what was the city caught my heart, and I was like, this is where have to be every Halloween for the rest of my life. I just knew it. And I knew that I had to get people excited and going down to New Orleans and being a part of the Halloween there and enjoying it, whether they go to my ball or they just walk around and hang out, or they go and they do whatever. They Some people just come to New Orleans and just hang out and go to the cafes and drink in the bars and take a couple ghost tours. Well,
They
some
do.
people come just for Endless Night. Um, one of the things that I like about it is the morphing elements of the alternative dark scene in New Orleans. Okay, and it's centered around Halloween. But do you remember the Dark Crystal and
Do.
the Whirling Dervish and uh, that bar Pravda? Can you tell us about Pravda?
So the creator of the crystal and I became friends, and we wanted a new space. We felt the city, it was right after, maybe not, like a year and a half after Katrina. Nobody thought the city was coming back. And we just weren't going to have that. So we thought, what we can't, we just sat and we pondered, what does the city need? Well, we it needs Wi-Fi for sure. It needs an espresso machine. It needs tea. It needs coffee. But we were known for bringing in absinthe. Now, this was before Ted Barreau, who created the label Lucid. He used to make all of this really good, like the Noviola Yons, the Edvard, and the number 12 over in France. And we would kind of import it in. And so we already had this clientele. Well, they wanted to sit in an actual bohemian setting with absinthe fountains and the paraphernalia that comes with absinthe. And they wanted to be a New Orleanian drinking absinthe in the space. So we created that space. And we thought, how fun would it be if we made it all red and sexy. And Michelle had one half. It was very Stalinistic, communistic Russia, and I had the other half, the Imperial Romanovs. And we came in the middle, and we decorated everything. And we bought the chandeliers. We brought things from our own house. We went shopping for settees. We were so picky. We picked out the espresso machine ourselves and the coffee, because and it was a whole year of like no hand grenades, no flip flops. We wanted, the queers and the locals to be able to come in and it not be pretentious enough to where you couldn't tell a fart joke and have absinthe at the same time. And we created Pravda.
So Pravda, the word Pravda, that means truth in Russian.
It does.
And that was a newspaper during the Soviet times.
Really, yes.
What inspired you to use that term?
I'm not going to lie, Michelle threw that at me and she was like, well, there's a Pravda in New York and I believe there was a Pravda in Vegas, and it was easy to say and it meant truth, and she had me sold.
Oh. And the whole Tsarina concept, that's your performance personality and idea. Obviously you're into the Romanovs and the Russian Tsar culture. Can you tell us what attracts you to that?
It was my nickname was Hellfire for many years, and that was from the fetish and the tattoo scene. But Michelle, my other co-creator from Pravda, named me Tsarina, the Empress of Hellfire. So it just kind of stuck.
Oh, cool.
So it's just kind of stuck. And I really I loved all the ritual court aspects of it. It was so ostentatious. Like, it was so just rigorous, but it was always the costuming for me. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of, feudal medieval craziness that they employed, but I just really enjoyed just the opulence, and I feel like there's always a bit of opulence here in New Orleans. And I wanted to kind of reflect that in the name Tsarina. Like, when you hear Tsarina, you expect the Empress of opulence, but also, absurd, because I am an absurdist.
So what eventually happened to Pravda?
Well, eventually the people from New York that own Belloc, which is another bar uptown, was interested in it and bought it. They kind of fired everyone, and it literally made the entire block angry. So,
Ooh.
yes, and we're a very big community here, so they just kind of fired everyone, and then it was a hot mess. So they quickly switched it over to Raising Cane and tables as you see it now, and Pravda just kind of disappeared. And for that whole 2 years, no matter where I went, people would ask, when are you making another one? And eventually I will. I just haven't found the spot, or, it's empires take a minute to build. So.
I know that one.
You know that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on my empire for a little while.
Yeah, I've been.
My father came to the LA Vampire Ball, and you were the host of Guillermo de la Cruz. Can you tell us about your experience with him?
Guillermo is a treasure, the sweetest, delightful person you'll ever meet. Just the sweetest. He was lovely, pleasant to work with. And when we went to go for the fitting, I thought he was going to die. He loved all of Peter's, the shrine. Yeah. He kind of wanted to just stay in character. And he was really wonderful to work with. And I hope we get to see him again. Every once in a while, I'll get a little text from him. He was really pleasant, and I loved even more that he's a beautiful queer man, and that he's just beautiful and sweet. And like, we had that lunch together, and it was just like hanging out with a friend. I love that all the celebrity, which I'm so excited to see him getting so famous, but he's still just at the heart, just a beautiful, beautiful little man.
I just watched the first 2 episodes of season 4 of What We Do in the Shadows.
So excited.
And it's the first time that I've seen new footage of him since we've met. And he was in my car, and he made the saber-tooth oath of rock and roll, and he was like, "What the hell am I doing?"
I know.
And what was really cool was, you know, his manager was great and very direct and forward and everything like that. And he was a great MC,
He really was.
brilliant MC. I hope we can get him back because I'll tell you, he blew up after Halloween, after the Valentine's ball. He's going through. He's up for. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a couple Emmys.
I hope so. He was really great. It was so much fun to do and work with him and Joey.
They were great. Joey called me the other day and said hi, so I just want to give the greetings to you.
Yeah.
So, okay, on to our next subject. Now let's talk a little bit about Endless Night. Okay, what inspires you and costuming? Tell us about your costuming choices for Endless Night and why you choose them and how you work with the theme.
I always, we always have our theme, and then I just kind of do my own variations. I actually do a lot of um, Pinterest research, and I go through the Met. So a lot of my costumes are historical based because I'm a costume historian. And then I just can't a little obsessive. I do. I'm not gonna lie. I do a little Amazon shopping. If I have time, I'll actually make a headpiece or I'll make my dress. But it's really just something that I feel very passionate about. So I always have to have my own spin. And a lot of times it's very 1920s because it's what I do. But with Storyville, I have I and I also I acquisitioned from for the film industry for many years. So I have quite a collection myself. So anything they, because they do multiples, like 5 of this and 5 of that, and anything that they don't use, they give away. So I just happily took some things. So it's always a challenge, which I like. So when you give out like our theme, like I don't know what our theme could be this year. So I've already started looking for, certain kind of pantyhose, like shoes. Like I like to hunt for those kinds of things. And I really just
Mhm.
I start seeing things in my brain. I start looking online about, like what were the ladies wearing in 1902 or 1903. So I just start researching and looking, and then I start slowly like putting things in categories, and then I start making my look months ahead of
That's
time.
awesome. Now, what about the music of Endless Night? What would you add? What do you like about it? And what do you think we can do to keep it evolving?
I really enjoy the opera aspects of it. I really enjoy the kind of live music elements. I love the fact that we get higher end bands because our crowd likes to dance. They want to get
Mhm.
dressed up, they want to take pictures, and they want to dance because I know that's what I want to do. And me and Autumn from Dark Garden and all my friends, like that's what we did after I was done. We just danced. Like that's Matt Christ plays that old school Bauhaus and some ministry, and so he's in the Banshees, and that's like taking me back to the '90s, baby. Like that's what I love to do. Um,
I'm gonna
I don't
request
know.
more Rammstein.
I mean, that's it's you get to do the stomp dance. Only you can do that, but you have to dance. That's the thing. You have to come out and dance with
I'm on
us.
the floor, man. You put Rammstein there, and I'm like, boom, boom, boom,
All
boom,
right.
boom, 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 boom,
We'll just
boom.
do the fun
Du hast
for
mich. Yeah. You know, did I ever tell you about my experience with Till?
No, you haven't.
Oh, this is gonna be the first time I've talked about this publicly. So,
Oh.
I was at the Berlin Vampire Ball back in 2014, and we were at a
Hmm.
venue called the Insomnia.
Oh wow.
And my assistant director is her name is Sabine, and we were in the green room, and she missed her flight, so she was really tired. She was on the on the couch and sleeping, but she's a Finnish, Romanian, French girl.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and a lawyer. And her dad was owned a Dracula restaurant in Paris, so I call him King George, the king of the vampires of Paris. And he's this old Romanian guy. So we were in Berlin, and she was um she was just taking a cat nap, and I look over and I see there's a VIP room that's across the hall from the green room, and it has a window that looks down onto the dance floor. And I saw Till from Rammstein walk by the door, and the manager of the club was this dominatrix named Dominique. She goes, "I am the German Hammer," and and I was like, there was certain things going on that I don't want to talk about on the webcam.
Totally understand.
But I wake up Sabine, and I'm like, Sabby, holy crap, Till from Rammstein just walked by. She slaps me. She's like, "I'm sleeping. Don't lie to me." And she gets up. Now she's wearing a corset and thigh-high boots and
Right.
a really sexy dress. She's a tall girl. She's gorgeous. Sabby Black Note, if you ever want to check her out on Facebook.
Definitely.
And what happened was she gets up and she walks over, and about 5 minutes later, she comes back with a glass of champagne. And she was like, "Yep, it's Till from Rammstein." And we ended up hanging out the whole night. And at the end of the
Aw.
night, it was her, me, and him in the VIP room. And he was hitting on her. Like literally, we had my whole staff in the green room, and he comes in and he was just like playing with her hair and stuff like that. And everybody in the cast was like, and
Oh.
so at the end of the night, we're in the room. He's definitely not sober, and he goes up to Sabine and he kisses her. He French kisses her, and she goes to resist, and I kick her in the thin, and I'm like, "Kiss him back!" And he does, and then he looks at me and he's like, "Are you the boyfriend?" And I'm like, and he French kisses me and sticks his Hashimi's tongue down my throat, and I was like,
A little bit more.
"I'm never gonna wash my mouth again," and that happened.
Wow.
And we left, and we couldn't get an Uber home because it was too late.
You're like,
It
well,
was too early in the morning. But that's why I want to have Rammstein, because Rammstein has that like crazy. It fits into our story. Sorry, I sidetracked completely.
no, it's Rammstein. I mean,
Yes, and therefore, Till is queer.
it's true.
Yeah. So
I've got a couple more minutes, and then they're going to have showtime, and we're not going to be able to hear each other.
okay, so tell us what's the difference between a native New Orleans person and a local.
That has been evolving over the years. There's not many of us left. I'm not going to lie. I was not born in the city. I do have ancestors that are here, but I was born in northern Louisiana, in Shreveport and Bossier City. And my parents wanted me to have they just did not want to raise me here. So we bounced back and forth from New Orleans to the Gulf Coast. But for me, I feel like if you were here for Katrina and you help rebuild and you contribute to the culture and the preservation of the city, then you're a native. There's been a lot of things happening in the past 5 years that I'm not going to lie. The city changes and it grows for the better or worse. But a lot of people come here and they don't understand, like Bambashwa is alive and she requires things from you if you're here. Some people, and I know I don't say this lightheartedly, people either come here and prosper and do well, or they come here to die.
Well, Bablancha has done very well by me, and I serve her well.
Yes.
So, Tsarina Hellfire, where can we find you all over the internet?
I'm not hard to find. There is only one of me. There's only one Tsarina Magdalena Hellfire on Facebook. I'm always here at the always. My Instagram handle is Tsarina_Hellfire. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find me at the Endless Night Ball this upcoming season. I'm always here in the city, and I'll be in New York, by the way, the 19th through the 26th, performing at Club St. Mazzie's Jazz Hall, the Rosewood Theater, and something else I can't remember. But
classic. So, Tsarina, it's been a pleasure. And the last thing I would like to ask is, what would you tell people who hear all weird rumors about Endless Night? What would you tell them to? What would you tell them to in response?
Why don't you get on your fanciest dress and let me personally invite you to come to one of our events and see for yourself what kind of weird stuff happens. Lots of dancing and lots of fun, and really just a fabulous, beautiful time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Till next time, rock and roll.
Rock and roll, baby. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you for watching. The best way to support us on this vampire adventure is through the crowdsource funding website, Patreon.
Please support our sponsors, Endless Night, Vampire Ball, Sabretooth 3D Fangs, and Vampyre Magazine.
Thank you. Rock and roll.